What is going on, everyone? Welcome on in. Coffee with Brodes. Devastating, and I mean devastating morning as we sit here today, eliminated from the playoffs. It's hard to believe, but as I kind of alluded to in the post-game podcast last night, it's not hard to believe. It's hard to believe, but it's not hard to believe. This whole Ben Simmons thing was never going to work, and then it even hit an all-time low of a disgrace in terms of a basketball player. And that's where we are. That's where we are. Now, in terms of what can they get for him and this and that, I don't know. It's the day after they just got destroyed. They just got annihilated. I don't know what the Ben Simmons trade value is on this morning. If I did, I'd be a very rich individual, but I just don't know what that is today. Do I think that there's going to be teams that are still willing to take a chance on a young player and look at a second round exit in game 7 as a good spot to be in? Probably. But right now, today, one day after, not even a full day after, just the next morning, I don't know his trade value. I just don't know what it is. Before we all get into the action here, hey, let's have a nice cup of coffee together. Everyone's enjoy this sip on this miserable Monday. If there's one thing that can make a Monday a little bit better, it's that first sip of coffee when you wake up and you're like, shit, do I have to wake up this morning? And you think about that cup of Joe and you think about those coffee beans and you start brewing those motherfuckers and you start smelling them and then they go up your nostrils and then it starts to make your body shake and then you start to foam out the mouth because you're so excited for that coffee. That's the only thing a Monday can do. The only good part of a Monday. That's where we are. So let's go. Oh, I needed that. Oh, did I need that? Now, yesterday, I went out and I bought myself some Wawa coffee. So I have the Wawa coffee grounds here. And I actually, just to change it up a little bit, I bought some French Wawa French vanilla creamer, a little Wawa hazelnut creamer, just for a little splash. I needed something new. Sixers broke my heart. And we got a little French vanilla taste, a little how do you do? That's what we're going with today for everyone asking. All right, let's go to the comment section and kick this bad boy off. I think this proves that tanking does not work. That's not true. I mean, just because the Atlanta Hawks ended up not having to fully, it means getting one player changes things. Trae Young changed the Atlanta Hawks. Unfortunately, a center position guy, you need some help. You need a primary ball handler to help out a 7'2" guy, and the Sixers don't have that. The tanking, and this is another thing I really don't want to do today. The process is a failure. This is a failure. This is a failure. No, it's not. No, it's not. You have Joel Embiid, and you're still in a position if you start maneuvering some pieces around. This does not prove tanking doesn't work. It doesn't mean tanking's the only way to do things. No one ever claimed that. But look at where you were and look at where you are. Yeah. It's still okay in terms of the tanking method. It's not a horrendous mindset. Sixers 205 comes in with a $50 donation. This team blows. Yes, Sixers 205. The Sixers definitely underachieved here and left some meat on the bones. Now, I think we can all go back to game 5 and basically admit that that was a breaking point. And we learned something about this team in game 5 that we did not think was reality when it came to the growth and the culture of this team. And once that happened, it somewhat ruined everything. The longevity of this team this season, what their ceiling could be, how far they could go. Playoff championship caliber teams don't blow a 26-point lead at home. They just don't, especially after what happened the game before. So game 5 was basically a breaking point for us all. That changed the feeling for us. It changed the feeling for us long term here of this core, where you knew game 5 was damaging. What would I thank you so much, Sixers 205. I appreciate that. Seth Curry did a lot and was surprisingly very consistent. Yeah, he was. Now, he got targeted a lot defensively. Herter was taking control of that mismatch, but it makes me laugh because, you're watching Herter annihilate a mismatch all game long while Ben Simmons has one every second and won't even look at the basket. That's what I've been trying to stress to everyone about the NBA. It's all about taking advantage of one-on-one matchups. Herter abused Seth Curry. That was the unsung hero. Herter. Ben Simmons has that every game, and he's unwilling to set his eyeballs at the dish. That was one of the worst games I've ever seen out of Ben Simmons. That's saying a lot considering how terrible he has been. But in terms of him unwilling to score, unwilling to do anything, that was probably the worst I have ever seen. And other teams see it. Other teams see that. It's not going away. Ben Simmons in the playoffs is an embarrassment. But once again, he's the young, uncapped potential that maybe some franchises still want to get their hands around. Or maybe they feel that it's a Joel Embiid thing. And if you surround him with a team that doesn't have Joel Embiid as a center, you can get more out of him. And you don't need to really focus on the shooting aspect. But that would be very naive. I hope a team does that. I'm really praying that a team thinks that way, and then once they get into the playoffs, they realize that here's the opposing team's defenders sagging 25 feet off of him, daring him to try and score. But, yeah, I mean, he's just a joke. He's just a joke. You have Joel Embiid saying, I'm sorry, and apologizing to the city, saying that he learned about toughness with this city and the torn meniscus he was battling through. While we have Ben Simmons saying it is what it is, I am who I am. I saw that tweet thrown out there today, and I thought, wow, it's sad. It's sad. $5 donation from Jacob Yashin. I apologize if I did not pronounce that correctly, but to take thoughts away from the Sixers last night, what are your thoughts on Cole Hamels? Wait, what? We can't be doing this, Jacob. We can't be talking about Cole Hamels right now. With all due respect, I appreciate the $5. I don't want thoughts away from the Sixers last night. This needs to be discussed. Now, you did donate $5, but my thoughts on Cole Hamels still working the pitch. I want nothing to do with Cole Hamels. I want nothing to do with Cole Hamels. But with all due respect, we got to get it back to the Sixers here. They just lost Game 7. They just lost Game 7 at home. Even the broadcasters commented on Ben passing 2 feet from the iron. Yeah, that was brutal. Carbon, by the way. Did you call into the Fanatic yesterday? Is this the same Carbon? Because I had a Carmen call into the Fanatic on yesterday's show saying I listen to Coffee with Brodes all the time. Now I see you in here. But yeah, that was Jim Jackson as the color commentator last night on the TNT broadcast. Not the Flyers, Jim Jackson. That's the play-by-play announcer, just for anyone who would have gotten confused there, which is just absurd if you would. But just to be clear, but yeah, he mentioned, he's like, you can't pass that up. You cannot pass that up. How? In what universe do you give that to not to Joel Embiid? I saw his reactions afterward. How do you give that to Matisse Thybulle underneath the basket? It's one of the most embarrassing plays I've ever seen, and that will live on repeat for the Ben Simmons supporters, for Ben Simmons himself. And look, I'm going to go through this again. There's a group of people that said, I've been saying this for 4 years. I've been saying this for 3 years. That's irrelevant. See, like, what's happening now and what happened 3 years ago is two totally different conversations. To expect Ben Simmons to grow, and Philly for Life wants to touch on the refs. And he says the refs were terrible because Simmons should have not have been in foul. No. Ben Simmons sucks, bro. Ben Simmons sucks. Ben Simmons put himself into foul trouble. Ben Simmons picks up those fouls and puts the refs in the position to call those fouls. That's why Doc Rivers says, I don't want Ben Simmons to get into foul trouble. That's why we say, well, Doc, if that's the case, he's not as strong of a defender as you think he is, because not picking up fouls is part of knowing how to defend, and he constantly puts himself in that position. But with Ben, I've been saying this for 5 years crowd, this is absurd. This is rare. This is not common. 99.9% of NBA basketball players grow their offensive game. They work on their craft. They get better. They establish themselves. They go on this journey of learning and growing and becoming a new player. So giving Ben Simmons multiple years early in his career to be willing to add to his offensive skill set is okay. And it's not frowned upon. And it's probably a really good thing to do because 99.9% of players will then become a new version of themselves. So I'm willing to give Ben Simmons that time. That's why year 21, year 22, and hell, even year 23, I'm willing to do that. Now, though, it's just no. Now there's just no defending, and it's clear as day. But before, this is why I can't get behind the narrative of, I've been saying this for 4 years. Well, it's irrational to say that after year 1 of his career, year 2 after his career. Now you hit a point where it's fair to say. Robert says Simmons is making the team worse by being there. It is. It's basically it's addition by subtraction with Ben Simmons. SKP says, can't blame the young player, but Matisse foul on the three-pointer was brutal. No doubt. I thought Matisse Thybulle had a strong game to that point. That's something that Matisse Thybulle has had issues with is somewhat when he comes around that type of way and he tries to make a play from behind. That's something I stressed his rookie season that concerned me a bit in the NBA. Players know how to kind of adapt to that. Now, Matisse has taken it to a new level that I'm a little stunned by how well he gets it done in that area because as you see with Trae Young, when you start defending from behind that way, sometimes it's easier to get some foul calls and you stop in your tracks and you draw the defender to somewhat run into you. So, I thought that would happen more often with Matisse. It happens still, and he needs to be better there. But when you're relying on Matisse Thybulle, when you're relying on Tyrese Maxey, when you have George Hill and Shake Milton out there in late fourth quarter situations, it all stems from Mr. 2-5. It all stems from Ben Simmons. Every issue we're talking about. Yeah, but Shake Milton was. And yeah, but George Hill was. But this was. Everything was happening. All was because of Ben Simmons and his inability to play basketball. Pag says your point guard only having 4 field goal attempts puts too much pressure on Embiid and Harris. I believe the reason Embiid is gassed in the fourth quarter. No doubt. No, there's no doubt that there's a correlation there. Joel Embiid's 8 turnovers correlation to Mr. 2-5. Tobias Harris out there. Look, I said this after the game. With Toby, 8 of 24, you want to get mad at him and say he wasn't efficient enough and he missed some bunnies? Fine. Was he the best he could be? Probably not. This is all part of the Tobias Harris experience, though. This is Tobias Harris. He's going to give you 8 of 24 with 14 rebounds. This is Tobias Harris. And I can't expect him to be some crazy elite player that he's not. Different from Ben, because Ben's not even looking at the basket, and that's unacceptable, and that's not even close to the same thing. So Tobias being Tobias, who is a willing shooter, he's willing to attack, he's willing to do those things. He's just not the most effective at it every game. That's a lot different than where we are with the Ben Simmons debacle at this point. So I can't accept Ben being this. I can't accept Tobias being who he is because to me, the way I see it, Tobias is playing the sport of basketball. And this is what he is. Ben Simmons is just not even playing the sport of basketball. He's just not playing the sport of basketball. So it's different. Duran says, I think even though Maxey made some rookie mistakes out there, he proved that he can be a solid point guard, plays solid defense, isn't afraid to shoot. He played okay defense on Trae Young. He's still not a defender that I'm in love with, obviously. The thing with Tyrese Maxey is if you start throwing Maxey into your starting rotation next season, right? You're not winning a championship. Like, where's this team going to go? You need a serious threat at the point guard position if you want to start talking about a actual playoff. I want to go win a championship title. I like Tyrese Maxey, young player, 20 years old. Now we're starting to talk about the growth of a player again. The growth of a player, how long it takes to develop. You got to learn so much. Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris are in their let's go mode. You got to get a real point guard. I like Maxey. He could be a bench piece, or you can utilize him in a trade package to go get that Damian Lillard, to go get that superstar elite point guard. Utilize him in a trade if that's what it takes. But I'm not going to sit here and wait for Tyrese Maxey to grow while having Joel Embiid operate at this rate. It just can't happen. The timelines aren't going to add up. So I like Maxey. He's fun. He's exciting. He's got the right attitude. He's not afraid and all. You're not winning a championship next season because of Tyrese Maxey playing point guard full time, playing a two-man game with Joel Embiid. It's just not that way. They say no. Who says no? The Portland Trail Blazers say no. Because if I'm the Portland Trail Blazers, I say hell no. Mr. 89, it's a reach, he says. But I want Doc Rivers gone. It's only year one, but his playoff ineptitude and getting out coached by McMillan is enough. Oh, yeah, there's no denying that you saw why he fails. I mean, it was clear as day. It was on display. It was extremely noticeable. You have Doc Rivers playing Dwight Howard in a Game 7 next to Ben Simmons. Dwight Howard in general sucked all playoff series long, and he's running into Trae Young, knocking him over. I don't know what he was trying to do out there. He was garbage all series long, unplayable. And Doc Rivers went 10 deep trying to throw Shake Milton in there for 5 minutes in the fourth quarter and telling him, I don't know, did he tell him to shoot threes? I mean, he's taking ill-advised pull-up threes, ill-advised takes to the basket in the fourth quarter down the stretch in Game 7. That's just a joke, and that's bad coaching. And Doc Rivers put it on full display on why he's a losing coach, on why the resume speaks for itself, why he has all of those flaws. Whoa, he's such a great coach. I don't know why he blows all these leads and why he's trash in Game 7. Oh, well, it's pretty damn evident. He coaches like it's the next regular season game. He coaches like it's Game 2 of the regular season. You don't even know your rotations. You don't have a set rotation in the playoff. Tell me how brutal that is. Well, I'll tell you how brutal it is. Very. And you know what? Bash Brett Brown all you want. I tried to express to everybody. Brett Brown was not as big of an issue. I saw Brett Brown coach harder than Doc Rivers did. Brett Brown went toe-to-toe with Nick Nurse until Brett Brown did not have any more options to counter Nick Nurse's options based off of personnel. Brett Brown had to play 4-on-5 with Ben Simmons. It was all these issues with Ben Simmons was a problem with Brett Brown. Hell, the Brett Brown haters claim that he didn't make Ben Simmons shoot. And it was Brett Brown's problem that Ben Simmons didn't shoot. Nope. We're experiencing the same thing that we did with Gabe Kapler. We ran Gabe Kapler out of town. Wasn't Gabe Kapler's fault. You ran Brett Brown out of town. Now, look, 8 years, 7 years, however long it was. I'm not saying the Sixers didn't need a shakeup in voice because they did. But I'm just telling you, everyone said it was Brett Brown's fault. It was not Brett Brown's fault. It's players over coach. Players over coach. Brett Brown coached harder than Doc Rivers did. No doubt about it. Christian with $5 says Ben Simmons for Kemba. I don't want Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker's a joke. At this point, is that where we're at? Wow, I'd throw up in my mouth if that's the case. I would be sick to my stomach if we had to watch Kemba Walker. If we had to watch Kemba Walker. Is it worse than Ben Simmons? Probably not. Probably not. Probably not. I want to tweet that. I'm going to tweet that Brett Brown thing. Brett Brown coached harder than Doc Rivers did. Oh, let me see how I can word this. Brett Brown coached harder in that Toronto series than Doc Rivers ever did in this playoff. I don't know if I like that. I might have to wait to word it the way that I want to. I don't know if I like the way that that is, but we're definitely going to throw that out there at some point. We're going to have to. Brown is the reason Ben is where he. Okay, then Elvin. With all due respect, if that's your thoughts, then you are just uneducated. After watching Doc Rivers and Ben Simmons this season, you're saying that Ben Simmons is where he. Brett Brown had Ben Simmons playing offense significantly better than this. Come on now, dude. Did you watch Ben Simmons over the years? Ben Simmons has fallen off a cliff when it comes to offense at all. Doc Rivers, whatever his approach was significantly worse than Brett Brown. I mean, Elvin, come on now. Let's get some brain cells. Let's get some brain cells. Fran says there's Bailey's in my coffee at work right now. Fran, after one of the games, you said I don't want to hear that it's a Ben Simmons problem, or you don't want to hear about Ben because they won. And no. Ben Simmons needed to be discussed in every game. Every game. And I said, you played basketball. You should know. Ben Simmons is a fraud. Ben Simmons is the biggest fraud. Robert said Embiid turnovers was a huge reason why we lost, though. And Ben Simmons is a huge reason why Embiid has 8 turnovers. Because in the NBA, you need a primary ball handler as a guard. You need that to be the case. You need perimeter players to help out a center. But you can't rock with a center at 7'2" trying to close out every single possession in the fourth quarter in a playoff series in a half court. It can't happen. All of these problems stem from Ben Simmons. Joel Embiid's 8 turnovers don't happen if you can run normal sets and you can actually have a 2-man game and you can run a pick and roll and you can run off screens and you can actually play the sport of basketball like a normal team. You don't have a 7'2" dribbling so much in the back half of a fourth quarter because that's what a point guard's supposed to do. Because that's what your floor general is supposed to do. That's the job. Calm everyone down, get your players in their positions, and run your offensive sets. But instead, you're forced by default to have a 7'2" man dribble 10,000 times. Robert, the reason why Joel Embiid has 8 turnovers is because you don't have a point guard. It's clear as day. Clear as day. Yes, it's not Joel. No, he could be a closer, but the closer changes when you have a point guard that can run your offensive sets. It's easier for him to operate when that's the case. He can be a closer, but it's a different way of closing. Can he go shot for shot, Kevin Durant, every single possession down the floor? Probably not. And that's not a Joel problem. That's a center position problem in 2021. So it's the style of basketball played in 2021. Joe can help be a closer, no doubt about it. A point guard can help him establish where he wants to go on the floor. The threat of a point guard who in a 2-man game is actually a threat to do something, you can't double Joel the same way. Because then that point guard can step into a mid-range jumper in an area in a soft pocket and knock down the jumper. Or he can attack the rim. Or he can explode. The threat of that point guard doing something can actually change the way the team defends Joel. And then you can get Joel Embiid into an area where he doesn't have to dribble into that area. And he's just already located there. So then he can get off his shot without having to dribble 10,000 times, and he can still help be that closer. So Joel can still help close, but the element of an actual player to help him get into those sets is significantly important when it comes to the center position. But yeah, Keenan, as a center closing out, yeah, it matters when you have another player to help you. Well, random gamer, I knew that was going to happen. There's so many people bashing Joel today because of the turnovers. But, I mean, it's clear as day that Joel Embiid's problems, everyone on this team, the problems all start with Ben Simmons. Why couldn't Embiid get us to the promised land? Because Ben Simmons. Because the Lakers don't, or the Clippers don't play 4-on-5 on offense. That's why. That's why. It's not Joel's fault. Ben Simmons is a bum. Yeah. Yep. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Dominic says it's mind-blowing. Mind-boggling to go from watching a Bucks-Nets series where the starters practically play the whole game to watching Doc play the bench. Yeah, I mean, it's brutal. I mean, to a degree, you have to go to some guard play because of Ben Simmons, so you're forced in that area, but he coached this game as if it was a regular season game. But I will say this, you want to talk about Doc, and he showed his flaws, and when it comes to a head coach, it's hard to, put all the blame on him because how can a coach Ben Simmons? How can you win? How can you win with that? There's no coach that can. You can't win a playoff series when offense. He said it himself. Doc said it himself after the game. It's really hard to win when you get those type of offensive looks and when that's your offense. Defense was fine, but your offense was a problem. Well, Doc, no shit. No shit, your offense was a problem. I mean, it's not rocket science here. There were individuals out there that didn't want to trade Ben Simmons for James Harden. Did not want to give up that type of talent for James Harden. You're not even close to getting anything, even sniffing the skill level of what James Harden brings to the table, which just blows. It just blows. Oh, really? We're supposed to be giving him are we giving Ben Simmons credit for 13 assists? My guy had 8 assists in the first half, and all he did was hand the ball off to Seth Curry and say, please, Seth, make this shot. And I'm supposed to go, wow, this guy's a facilitator. This man can really get this team wide open looks. Man, this guy can really pass the basketball. This guy, off a broken play, he got a wide open assist to Furkan. Damn, Ben. You are worth every penny. You are worth all my time. You are worth all this frustration. I tried saying, right? When you need to rely on a Shake Milton game, on a Tyrese Maxey game, on a Furkan Korkmaz game, and that's what they had to rely on for their 3 wins this playoff series, you're fucked. You're fucked. They're role players. You need to rely on a man that you pay $30 million to. You need to rely on you can't rely on bench players to win you playoff games. You just can't. You cannot. And that's what Ben Simmons and his style does. That's what it does. Brodes, what your take on re-signing Korkmaz? No. I don't want anything to do with him. He stinks. You saw that in the playoffs. He got abused defensively. And he's not Seth Curry. So he can't score enough to justify. And think about how much Seth Curry was scoring. And you couldn't even justify keeping him out there because Herter was getting his points and scoring on him. So now I don't want Korkmaz. All right? Korkmaz stinks. Ben Simmons for cash considerations. Oh, man. That's basically where we're at, though. And I know right now we're in doom and gloom. So right now, as Sixers fans, we think there's no way. But as much as we think there's no way, he falls in the category of insane potential. He does. He falls in the category of insane potential. He also falls into the category of the most historic free throw shooting we've ever seen and probably the biggest collapse from an individual that we've ever seen as well in terms of stock falling. So, there is that side to it as well. But I think that as much like we didn't think we'd get anything for Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz sucked. Carson Wentz couldn't make a fucking throw. Who's going to want him? And you're possibly going to get a number 1 draft pick. Here's what I don't want, though. I don't want draft picks. And now we got to go through the draft and this and that. I don't want draft picks. I want to complete a roster with a serious player, with an actual player. Now, if you get a bunch of draft picks and then you make a trade for a player, I don't know the route you're going to have to take. I would imagine, though, that Ben Simmons is going to have to be in some sort of deal to get you that player we're talking about. But I don't want to do where we have a really young rookie 20-year-old point guard. I want a serious player. I want a player who's been around the block that can keep this team in a actual playoff contention. I don't want to go young. I don't want draft picks. I want a real professional NBA point guard that you can pair with Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris and try and make a run. That's what I want. I want something actual. I don't want to start this whole journey of waiting for Maxey to grow, waiting for young players. I don't want it. I don't want it. Kyle Lowry is a floor general. He's a pit bull. I mean, he's definitely won before. He gives you that attitude. I think pairing him with Joel Embiid gives you something. I like Kyle Lowry. I think I would be intrigued by Kyle Lowry. Now, you got to figure out moving Ben Simmons, of course. And, Kyle Lowry is a little bit older in his career, so I don't know if he has that same spunk, if you will, that he had a couple years back. He's 35, but I think that would make me feel a lot better about what this offense could be with Kyle Lowry in the mix. That's something I think can help solidify a standard point guard role, can help actually give you legitimate offense and a normal set. So that's a start. I think that's probably a realistic type of option. We know the background about Villanova. We know the background about where he is, where he's from. So I can live with that. I think that's a start. A 500 yen coming in from Mullet Petition. This is the second person who tried doing this now to switch up to baseball talk, and I just can't do it. So I appreciate the 500 yen. You're talking about Shohei Ohtani, excuse me. 270 ERA, Rob. I got you. I can't do it. I appreciate the attempt of trying to go in another direction. I just can't do it today. The Sixers just lost Game 7. I can't do it. Trade him to the Suns for CP3 and all Kardashian team in Phoenix. An all Kardashian team. That's pretty funny. Well, Devin Booker went off without Chris Paul. Diedrich Ford. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Ben Simmons just showed the NBA everything he can't do, and it's more negatives than positives. You are not wrong. It's real negative. And I'm sure it's going to scare some teams. There's going to be some sort of franchises that are afraid to go in that direction. There might be some that look at him as he can get you to the playoffs and he can help you out if you have a proper roster surrounding him. And maybe it's the whole Joel and Ben can't work together theory. But it goes a lot longer than that. I'll go back to this. If you're relying, you can't play. Ben Simmons thrives in a style of play that isn't playoff basketball. He thrives in a fast-paced game. The playoffs is a slow-down game. You don't get an 82 regular season type of style of play in the playoffs. So when Ben plays well, you don't get that style of play in May, in June, in playoff basketball. Not only that, if you want to rely on role players to be the guys, you need the initial elite superstar first. Without Joel, there's no anybody else stepping up. You need that first to match. Like, stars might counter one another. Giannis and KD, they might counter one another, and then who's the other player to step up? There's some games where that happens. If Ben's your guy, you don't have that player. You don't have that initial player to counter everybody else. You're just hoping and relying on all bench players and all rotational pieces to score. You can't rely on that. It's a joke. You can't rely on that. Phillies fan says absolutely no effort out of Ben. There were times where it looked like he was just not interested. Didn't want to do it. Wasn't feeling the battle. There were times where he was just not interested in working hard. Trey Toller donates $2. Joel Embiid pulled his weight. Ben and Doc did not. I think that's nice and simple. You are correct with that statement. Nice and simple. Joel Embiid pulled his weight. Ben and Doc did not. There shouldn't really be Joel Embiid slander. You know, if you have a brain, it's clear to see that you're asking Joel Embiid to do so much. You're asking Joel Embiid to try and do way too much as a 7'2" center. And there's a reason why Jokic, he put up 30 points, grab you 20 rebounds, give you triple doubles, and he failed. You can't do it as a center. And that's okay. That's not to knock those special talents. You need help. Kevin Durant needed help. You can't do it all yourself. James Harden was injured. Kyrie Irving was injured. Blake Griffin. I mean, you can't rely on Blake Griffin. It's clear, it's obvious. These guys need help. Kevin Durant, you can't play stand around and watch Kevin Durant. You can't play stand around and watch Joel Embiid. It just can't happen. You need help. Joel Embiid did not have help. Last night was ridiculous. Philly Mike in the house. It was, but it wasn't. And that's where I'm conflicted. It was ridiculous, but it wasn't ridiculous. It's game 7 on your home floor, and they put out a dud. They did not play a good brand of basketball. Very sloppy. What was it? 17 turnovers, some live ball turnovers that really costed you. A weird brand of basketball for sure. So it was weird that that was the effort you got when you knew that it was go home if you don't win, and you had all the fans supporting you. At the same time, you're playing 4-on-5 every possession. Why would you win in a playoff series? Why would you win when Ben Simmons plays basketball that way?